Hey guys, Tempest here. Just a friendly Canadian reminder to keep force buying, and you're watching Thorin's YouTube.
Right, one thing people have noticed, and it does seem like something that's changed about you, is, like I said, if you think of the famous Boston Major one, or some of the other big finals that you were this close to winning, but you didn't. Like I say, sometimes it's more like you were sort of just waiting for the win to happen, or like even just going like, oh, you know, something can happen in the game. Now, in this FaZe Clan, I think it was Launders who said it best. He described it as like, there's always like a 29th round golden call. It's like you just have one call that, like, if you were to take it out and put it in, like, to young IGLs, like, this is your dream. Like, if you ever get to a big tournament, you want to be able to do, like, the read. So it's like, oh, this is the one where you do the, it's not just like you're going to win the round. You're going to do, like, the read that's the one that wins the round. Like, you guess the rotation. You do the double fake. Like, obviously, the Dallas one's the great example. Like, this has become a habit at this point in time. In fact, people saw at the major when the team was in really bad form. Half of these, as well as ropz winning rounds, half of this was what was getting you through matches. You had to come up with some ridiculous late game call. And if people don't get it, that type of call usually has to be something that you didn't do in the rest of the game. It has to be something where it's like, it can't be too clever, because if you second guess yourself, you might fuck it up. But it has to be something where it's like, this will just work. And the team, oh, there's the other thing. The team has to actually believe it. Maybe you've done it enough times that they execute on it. Because if someone hesitates, someone thinks, that's not, or someone says, no, let's not do that, it's going to ruin the whole thing. So give me an idea of what this is like, because this has become a habit at this point in time. It feels like every tournament has one.
Yeah, I think I'm famous for building up a lot of patterns during a game or doing a month or doing a tournament, and how we play the rounds and doing a left and right fake. So when I build up these patterns, for every time I'm playing some of these rounds, I will gather information on how the enemies reacted, or I'll ask the questions to my teammate. Did they rotate from A early? Yeah, they rotated fast. Or get a situation where one guy's trying to go out and he said they didn't rotate on the first, like, fake during a game, you know, like, so 8 rounds in, they're not moving, or they're moving a lot. And I think that's where I just come up with these extra layers of our patterns. So I think the team knows, because it happens sometimes that I say, I have a great idea, and then I just fire the idea off within 10 seconds. And I pray to God somebody's asking me if they misunderstood or anything, because sometimes within those 10 seconds, because the thing is, when I have the great idea, I don't want to take a tactical too often, because that's the moment where the enemies can discuss, and they have 30 seconds to, I think they're going to do this, or one guy saying, I think they're going to do that, and then the idea they will come off the tactical doesn't make sense, but it's just like 4 people talking what they think going to happen now, you know? So sometimes I'll just want the idea to come out, because if I take 30 seconds to explain it, I feel like it gets too complicated. Because if I'm saying we're faking here, we're strafing mid, they will ask, I'll tell them when to strafe. They don't have to think, just aim, you know, like in that sense of building the round up. So I just think when you see more of these calls lately, I think it's because I'm just more calm in myself and more confident in myself that this is the right moment to fire for call, and I'm just happy to take the responsibility. If the tactic was done correctly as I explained it, then I can take the responsibility. But in defaults, I can't always take the responsibility, because everybody has a lot of freedom. If they see a gap or they see a smoke or they want to move a little bit earlier because of information, I don't get to control that as much as the call I do, because then I know it's like a basket player going for the 3-point. I'm trying to take the ball in my court now. I'm trying to control and say, this is what we're doing right now, and I need you guys to follow it and believe, you know? For some of the other rounds, it's very mid-round call based off the information I get. And here it's more like a pattern I build up, but also a pattern the enemies build up. And that's why it's very hard to do in the beginning, because I feel like people are doing so many game plans. So the first 3 rounds on CT side they're all planned out by their coaches, the statistics. But once the game goes deep, then I really see the real team and how they move and how they understand. Is they count only to us? But it's like, the deeper you go in a game, the more natural and the more thing you focus on what you do good than what the enemies are doing.
Obviously, one of the reasons why people who are casual fans have a hard time knowing how good the IGLs are is usually there's not an obvious way on the screen you see it. Like, for a star player, you see the Deagle 3-shot, or you see the 1v2 or the no scope or something. I feel like for IGLs, the thrill, the moment that shows like, hey, that was me, has to be when you do a call like this. And the best ones are the ones where it's like there are 4 or 5 CTs alive, and then you just go to either, like the dream is like on Nuke, where you just go lower and they have all 5 alive, and you're just like, holy shit, we get the bomb out with no CT or like this, where there's one guy on the site and he's the one praying you're not coming there, and they all think it's going to be the last second execute on the other side. Like that has to be, as an IGL, normally you have to live vicariously through the players. They have to win you the game. It has to be a thrill when you get the call right and you come in that site and you see there is one guy or there is nobody or he's just exited out as you come in. It's got to be a cool moment.
Yeah, especially because this tactic didn't work in practice. Like this tactic I did against Ents because people didn't rotate or the pressure is not high, but it has to be pattern built up during a game, right? Because sometimes what I do in practice is I call based on what we went through and we need to test this and this variation of the tactic. But I would never call it in the game if I didn't feel like this is the right time because of all what I built up of the patterns during the game. You know, we did fast fakes, we didn't fake at all. If we did smokes here, went out mid, but what if we did double smokes and went out after, you know? So that's what feels good, that what you worked on and you kind of have to justify sometimes, this is what we need to do. And everybody's like, can we do this? No, this is what we need to do in this strat. And we just have to go there and do this fake and throw these nades and fall back. And then you see coming to that point where you have to recall a 15-14 against Ents. And I remember hearing the crowd shouting. I was like, I think this is go time, boys. There's something wrong here because the crowd's starting to rattle. As I say, Twistzz, I even think we did a little bit wrong because I said one guy has to commit on B. I was looking at radar in A main and I saw we didn't commit fully to the fake. And then Twistzz went out, killed the guy, and the crowd went more ham than they normally would. And I felt like there's a reason why this works perfectly right now, because the time was low and nobody pushed us anywhere. So I think it was just like nice to feel like, especially in that game, I had such a bad individual game. I couldn't kill. But in that moment, I felt like I did something for my team more than just like going around the corner and dying. So in that moment, specific moment, just felt like, okay, I'm here, I'm in the zone. I can call this home, but I cannot win us the rounds by playing in my level, but I can do everything I can to be a stable mental leader, all the things to think about yourself in the game. Like before the game starts, I have to be strong, I have to be motivating, I have to be mentally there, and I have to be focused, you know, and I have to kill. But I didn't kill, so I could do all the four other things in that game and just do my best as a leader to tell the team we got this, you know, and just feel like playing with confidence and also calling with confidence.
As much as, you don't have, like you said earlier, you don't have the simple or the Nico who you could just look to and go like, right, I need 35 kills on this map. Oh, you can do it, cool. Like, you don't have that. But one thing that you do have that I think is an awesome compliment to your calling style is, like you said earlier, like literally every member of FaZe Clan for their role is famous for clutches. People might not even know this. You've even won tons of clutches as an IGL. And obviously you are the boomer at this point in time. You're not the guy with the super crisp headshots. But like, if you do these calls, it has to be cool also to know that like, it basically doesn't matter. Like, it could be broky. People have seen him win 1 million 1v2s with an AWP. Twistzz has done that thing where he wins the impossible ones where it's like you have to headshot the first two guys in 0.1 seconds or it isn't even like a round that's possible to win. And obviously it goes without saying that at this point in time, ropz is just making like a fucking 10-hour highlight movie of like the impossible clutches. Like, it has to be so sick to have that in like sort of the insurance policy if you don't just win the round outright.
Yeah, I mean, that's also what a team is built, and also feel like that's why we complement it so good. They know they have a lot of freedom. If they're saying, I want to do this peak, I'm never going to say no unless, like I said, I have a big call I need to do now, because the pattern I've built up or whatever. But I give a lot of freedom where they can also flourish and make their impact on the server, so I'm not always telling them what to do, or if they want to play more aggressive, I'm super happy to see that, because then I can control more from the background and be more supportive with nades. And I feel like I'm really good at doing flashes for my teammates and all that stuff, but I just never get a chance to do it as I'm running it first, you know? So I think if people are playing more aggressive, and I feel people are more aggressive, it just gives another dimension to the team as well, that I can be in calling in the 3-on-3s or doing something and finding the gaps, you know? So I think we have so many different things, and I think that's what I alluded to earlier when I talked about the multi-win. We didn't play super good as a team. We didn't play super good individually, but we did something different games and different maps. So we played good as a team. Next game we played bad, but somebody saved our ass. You know, like we don't need all three things to be there, but when they're there, we are unbeatable. I think we saw that in 2022 when we hit the high team that we're playing good. We have the tactics for the right moment, but if one of them fall off, we are still a strong team. And I think the one thing you can never take from us is the clutch factor. Like you said, it's like so hard to put us down. You have to make sure you play the clutches good. You cannot lose focus, even if it's like 13-8 and it's 4-on-3 to you and you should win a round. But if you give a lifeline, the clutches comes, I come alive, we get an orb on broky, he starts performing again in the game, you know. There's so many different ways you can win games, and I think that's the first time I ever had that in a team where I feel like we're such a good complement to each other. So if somebody has an off game, somebody takes over to be a little more aggressive. ropz can play aggressive, but mostly he's passive. Twistzz can do everything in the team, from orbing to come with some great ideas, play aggressive, you know. And Rain and me is just always like trying to be the stable thing, but everything is varies in the team of how to play.
Right, obviously, as we discussed earlier, way back in mousesports, you had the younger ropz who was becoming a star. He was becoming a script player. I remember back then, he was a very good player, but he wasn't like, no one was putting him in is it him or is it simple? Or is it like, he wasn't in that conversation yet. But I've seen this year, especially when the teams had certain tournaments where the team was looking like it was going to get eliminated. It feels like now he's really found his identity as a player. Like I told him privately, like, dude, you've sort of mastered your style. Like, you know exactly who you are as a player now. Obviously, this like super lurker. Now, I will say, like all the great lurkers, there's definitely the times where it's like, you lurked a bit too much there, but you never came in. You just like, you're off here. There's a reason why you're saving 4 rounds, because you never had a chance to go for it. But I think people understand why you give him that leeway, why you give him like more leash, right? Because some of these ones he's won in the last few months are like, to win one of these in a career would be epic. Like, he's doing it like every fucking tournament. Like, he just comes in and wins like an impossible 1v3. And I even notice he's got that thing now where, one, he just thinks he's going to win them all and is perfectly calm. And you get that insane thing that you only get when you master something, which is the opponents see your name and they start going. Even Zipnik's had this, like, they start to shitting themselves, like, oh fuck, it's Rob, and somehow they just make it easier for you. They do peek out 1 second too early. They do fuck up a flash or whatever. Give me some thoughts on this, because like, in a way, it's like having Superman in the back. Like, if everything goes to shit, he might just come in and save us anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think many of the other players are calling him the jiggle peeker or the slow player, you know. But he's so thorough in everything he does, and that goes also to personality. He's very disciplined in what he does and very thorough, understanding the movement, understanding the mechanics, trying to understand why the smokes are popping. And I also feel like with him in CS2, he's gonna, be very creative in everything he does, because that's who he is. He's just sitting there and trying to improve his own game. And I think what ropz lacked in the beginning when I played with him was being more aggressive, because I think he was too one-sided in what he did. But he was really good at what he did. But sometimes you need to be a little more aggressive, and I think he understood that he has the freedom to do it. If he has a call, he can always go for it. And some of the maps, like overpass, he would just say, Finn, can you flash me out monster? I'm like, hell yeah. But if he starts playing aggressive, it just creates a bunch of other openings for Rain on the opposite side of the map that he will take at any point, right? But also, I understand the way he plays, the way he sees the game. He will never change in the way he believes is right, because he has so high success at what he does. And that's what I mean. Like, even if he comes late sometimes, as long as he will sometimes win the round, like if he's coming too late with the trade or something, but he believes because he was doing the right thing in the moment. But as a captain, I have to make sure that the team is still functioning, if it didn't function, I had to take a talk with ropz, so I had to talk with the team that, we have to play a little bit different to make sure that everybody is getting something out of the way we go in or whatever. But also sometimes I realize when ropz is not having the impact he wants at the lurk, because maybe the enemies are really aware of him, I'll try to go in front of him on that opposite side, and we play aggressive lurk together where he gets to trade me, so he gets back into the game. But it's very hard for me to get everyone into the game if everybody's not getting their timings, But he has just such an incredible player, and it's very nice to see the way he developed, because in my opinion, he developed slow, but just became a monster, Like, it wasn't a fast grow over the night, and suddenly he was a great player. It was a slow. He had a high level when I came to the team, but I just think what I gave him was a structure where he could know, okay, even if he doesn't have a high level, there will be a team or overall plan on what we do as a team, and that made him more comfortable and confident that he can play aggressive, and he just kind of grew into playing more aggressive, which I think is pretty nice.
Right.
And
Go on.
that's also why you see on Mirage, it was very strange to have the talk with him. He played Mirage A for so many years, and then he played Connect, and now he hasn't looked back since, because
Yes.
he's very good at playing aggressive sometimes, and he's he's not scared to do it either in the big games. He will do his aggressive moves if it's like something set, you know.
Explain broky to me, because I've always thought, like I won't lie, it took until he actually was like being the MVP before I realised how good he was. Because the problem was, since he's an AWPer, I always tell people this. He is an AWPer because he uses the AWP, but he's not like a traditional AWPer. He's not like Device or Guardian. They are the ones where they go really far back. They just pick their spot. They double scope in and they hit the first 3 people. Like broky does that thing where everything's a flick, everything's a jiggle with the AWP. It's why in 1vx he's so amazing, because like everything's like a single scope, really fast shot like that. So like the joke is I almost never see him double scope. They're like, what? How do you use a player like this? Because on the one hand he is amazing with the gun, but it's not like if you have Guardian and Navi, you put the whole team around him. You let him get his pick, you set him up, you fly. How do you use a player like that?
I think he has a lot of freedom seat to side. He moves a lot. I think from when I came into the team, I think his development has been steady. It's not the fastest development, but there's also the personality of how broky is and how he works. You know, he's a very special guy, and me and Robin is taking very good care of him and how we see and trying to talk to him and understand that what he needs to do for the team. But also, I just think there's a switch in his mindset since we joined, and me and Robin joined. He wants to be a better teammate and trying to help everyone else than just himself, you know. But I think what makes broky unique is his T-siding opening. It just feels like it's a tank running behind you. He's saying strafe, and you know, when broky's telling you to strafe, he's not holding the angle. He's running behind you with an AWP, you know. So I think that's why he's very good at getting position on the T side to clutch, is because he's so close to the actually fight. You know, when he's saying strafe on Inferno, he's coming with you into side to trade you. He's not like holding the library, holding the pit if somebody's strafing while you're going, but he's actually good at doing that, and that's why he enters so many clutches where the combat AWP is his best weapon. You know, like I think that's where he strives the most and have a very unique style compared to other players. I still think he can improve. I think everyone can improve in the team, but I think it's such a joy to see that he got the MVP in Katowice, and to see him hit a high level. I think ranked top 5 last year, and just see that he's getting more and more stable. I think he's going under the radar because he's not always the biggest stats or the biggest impact, but if you see over the development from when me and Robin joined, he has become more and more stable. I knew he was good because he had a lot of clutch factor under Coldzera and Nico and stuff like that. But I think stability was his biggest weakness. And I think with the structure around the team and him understanding he can always go for peaks, he can always do this. But sometimes we do need to do something else for the team, like trading when going into the sites, or sometimes not move too much, you know, like he needs to believe that when he started A and not move between B and A. But right now, sometimes I feel like he wants to be in the action and he gets to be in between sides, and then they hit A, but then there's a fake and then he's late to B, you know. So I still think he can grow a lot, and I think the potential is just super high for him, because there's something that those 3 young players have. It's like they fit perfectly in game. Like you have Russ a little more aggressive, you have Robin passive, then you have broky in between. He can be super aggressive, but he can also be a little more passive, you know. So those 3 guys are just working so good in clutches, and that's why you see having broky having an untraditional opening style just fits also ropz a lot, you know, if he's holding an angle a little more, but just broky just running by with an AWP trying to trade, you know.
Right, obviously, as you pointed out earlier, one of the cool things about the Twistzz angle is he's basically the reason you're in the team. Like, he also wanted to play with you again. Also Coldzera, apparently he also requested that back in the day. I'll just point that out. That wasn't an interview, right? So the cool thing to me is this. I also think Twistzz is someone where people forget where he was at in his career before he joined FaZe and before he hooked up with you. Like, he was a bit lost. Like, he seemed like he'd lost his identity as a player. People don't remember. Early in Team Liquid, he was a fucking stud. He was a monster. But even that Liquid Grand Slam year, by the end, I remember him telling me, like, I'm sort of in the roles I probably shouldn't do, or maybe I don't want to do, or that's how they see me as a player now, and someone else maybe has the role I want. Like, one thing people take for granted, which, like you told the story, the ropz example earlier, seems that you've done with a lot of players in your career, is some of it isn't just like, right, I'm a good IGL, you're a good player, we just do it. It's also sort of like, let's figure out who you are, who you should be, who you can be in this team. So what have you tried to do with Twistzz?
I think knowing coming to the team, I only knew Twistzz from interviews and like the way how many highlights he had, but also knew that the role he was not super happy about in Liquid, like playing a lot of strange roles, but he still performed at a high level, right? So you never know what happened there. Like I obviously know, but hard to for me to talk about it. But when he came to play with me, I was like, okay, this is exciting. He's like young, but super experienced already as a player, right? But I also felt like what I got was a little fragile Twistzz, you know, like because he just went through that thing in Liquid. He got backstabbed. He loved playing with Nitro. It wasn't there, and he kind of wanted to be in the team, but then he didn't want the roles and everything. So obviously, the stint he had in Liquid made him less confident. But he's a confident guy, you know. He would say he's very confident, but you could feel when I put him in the beginning of star roles that he had a lot of flair for it, but also I think he had to come through from learning from that star role what it takes to be a star player, because he was, when we had Olof and Cold Zero, Twistzz was a star player. He was like giving all the position, giving all the things, and there comes a lot of responsibility in every single game, you know, and that's why I think this team and why Twistzz also flourished so a lot. He's not asked to perform 30 kills every game. He's not asked, but he can pop off like this and win an incredible clutch. We see it all the time from out of nowhere. And I think the role he has now is maybe a mix between a star player and the Liquid player he was. But it's like there were some roles where I said on paper looks strange with Twistzz, but with how the team works, it makes sense, you know. But it's like he wants to have impact. He wants to set his mark on the game. But we also have me and Rain doing a lot of like early aggression. But I always told him, like, if you want to go somewhere and just like really just go out of mid and mirage and you have the best form and you want to go down and take the fight, you can always do it. But it's like I played all roles in my career. I can easily play the B lurk for a round or two, but I cannot be there for the whole game because I lose touch of the rounds and the mid rounds, you know. So I think that also made him comfortable enough to, like, he knows he can go for stuff, and that freedom, maybe he lacked that in Liquid with some of the roles he played, that he could just like do whatever the fuck he wants, you know, like as long as within what makes sense, you know. But he's a very special guy, and I think he comes up clutch in where we don't expect it. Like out of somewhere, he just makes like 3 AK headshots, and it's like so many times we hear nice rush. You know, like you know, surprised nice that it even happened. You know, like because of the rounds he was in the middle of nowhere and just flicks people left and right. So his mechanics is out of this world. Like he has some special talent, the way he aims and the way he plays. Like, but I think it was good he came to me on the FaZe, because I think he needed that to maybe feel appreciated as a player, but also as a person. You know, that there's room for him in FaZe to be who he is and make sure that he can get impact on the game. And I'm just trying my best to make everyone happy, but it's impossible everyone to be 100% happy unless you win. And there's compromise in every team, right? For me, there's compromise. For Russ, there's compromise. But the way he has handled it, that ropz came in and took some of his roles, he seemed happy because like there's another guy that can really, you know, he really respects and believes does as good a job as him in some of the roles.
One of the weird things about the fact that now when people do the GOAT conversation, it's you and Glaive, both Danish IGLs, is obviously he did it all with a bunch of your players. I've always thought, did that always feel a bit weird? Does it feel a bit weird that when people compare? Because obviously in some ways they try to hate on you, like, oh, but you had the same players. I mean, they were a few years earlier. But also, like, it makes you think what I could have done probably with the same players, right?
No, I think it's so hard to say hypothetically if that could happen. I mean, I knew Glaive would be a right fit in the way he saw the game, because I played with him shortly in faculty and also as a stand-in. But I think a lot of things happen in Astralis. Just as I was left, they got a sports psychologist. Sonic got a lot more say as a coach. There's a lot of stuff happening, and I think everybody had to mature during that phase where we lost a lot and it was not good. And then Kirby came instead of Cajun, and I only played with Kirby for like 2-3 months, and roles were switched between Dupree and Kirby. And then when I left, they switched roles again, and it was like very chaotic in that period of time for me in Astralis, and I wasn't in my best form, or we were still discussing how to play as a team. So for me, I knew Glaive was going to do a good job, maybe I didn't expect 4 majors, obviously. I think no one expected that on paper, but they became the best team in the world of CSGO and the best ever in that period. And it kind of changed the utility game we see nowadays. They changed that for the time being. It's less of this nowadays, but they really try to make all teams change the way they think about CS. But I mean, obviously, the comparison, no matter how you're going to do it, if you value majors more, I'm never going to be able to touch Glaive. But I think what I've done in my career is something unique. And I think Glaive have done the same, right? Like what they did in the span of 2 or 3 months is probably never going to happen in CS2 either. I think it's very interesting, and it just made everybody more hungry and more motivated to try to take them down. I took them down a few times. I think that's also undervalued, that I actually think I had a good win rate against them, even with stand-in and stuff like that in that period. But obviously I was super happy for the guys. I know how much it meant to them and how much they fought it, and for Danish CS as well.
Yeah, that's actually a question I did want to ask you. Normally when I ask and I bring up the topic of Astralis 2018, the question always goes and the answer's the same. It's like, they were almost unbeatable. And then the answer's like, yes, they were unbeatable. Like, we tried, you did everything, they won on this, you couldn't beat. You're one of the few people, as I pointed out, that actually had like a positive win rate against them. Like with the FaZe Clan, you won with some stand-ins, as you say. Even with Mouse, you beat them in that famous epic Pro League one. So actually, you're one of the only people I can ask this question. How do you actually beat the all-time great Astralis team? Because they probably are the best team ever, but what do you have to do to try and beat them in a match?
I think the problem was that everybody started playing like Astralis. It's a very normal thing when a team is on the top. It's like same when Gambit during the COVID. I swear to God, everybody watched the Gambit demos, and
sure.
In the practice, it just felt like you played a few Gambits. Now they're playing so slow and trying everything. But I just stick to the way I wanted to play CS, the way I believe was the right thing for international team. You have to think, there was not many international teams, so for many teams it was easy on paper to imitate the same as, imagine this, to play the same as Astralis as the national speaking teams. So playing slow, they're playing structured, doing flashes and moving, and then small fake, go to opposite side, good as team as trade. That's very basic CS. And I realized we would never be able to beat Astralis by the basics. It's not going to happen. They're too far ahead of everyone else. International team would never play the basics as high, but we have to play the basics good, but we have to have something extra. And that means some spicy calls, some spicy clutches, and trying to be more explosive. And I realized they had issues with us playing disruptive CS against them. So I believe the counter was to them to not let them set up, let them not play the slow style. But if you could get a trade in the beginning, a 4v4, the whole plan of how they were was weakened, you took a wheel off a tank or something, wheel off a car, but they were still a great car driving, but it was they needed more nades to how they were normally asking about endings. But you can only do that when you have great players to disrupt, like a guy like Rain, Guardian, or Nico playing very aggressive, and the same with Mouse. So we were a very explosive team against Astralis, and I remember the comeback in Odense, it was very, very spicy calls. And so on around, she played slow. I was like, this is ticking for me because I know how good they're moving, how good they're communicating. But in the end, I think it was the opposite style. We didn't play like them, and they didn't play like us. And I think that it was strange for them to play a team like us at that point, because everybody was copying Astralis, and we just kept going with our style.
Because he had the 4 majors, obviously everyone back then, it was right, not only is Glaive the GO IGL, but it's undisputed. You're not even allowed to discuss it. And I won't even lie, mate. When I first started bringing up, yeah, but you could put karrigan in there. I was just doing it like pub talk, make it cool. Let's have 2 names in. It can't just only be one. There's got to be another angle to it, So when I started doing it, though, it was more like I said, just a hypothetical. Even I would have said, if you put a gun to my head, I'd have gone, okay, it's Glaive, obviously, isn't it, right? But then obviously, this is what people forget, because if you notice with reputations, until you completely break down the door, people make this reputation static. So your reputation till you won the major in Katowice was the same as, 2015, 2018. It's you weren't allowed to have improved. So what happened is, as you piled up the accomplishments, and people forget because you won them so fast, suddenly the resume got really good. You had a major. Even then, yours with an international team. Then you win the Grand Slam. Okay, you've done that too. You've won Cologne and Katowice. By the way, I'll just point this out there. Glaive's never won Cologne. Just going to put that out there. I'm not saying anything. It's just a fact. Just a fact. Don't get mad at me, fans. But all I'll say is this. I've noticed as you've added the accomplishments, now Whereas before, if I'd have gone, yeah, but what about karrigan? It was more like, boo, shut the fuck up. Like, you're an idiot, you're biased, right? Now, I get people like, yeah, I actually think he is. Like, whoa, holy shit. Like, what? Oh, it's actually changing. Like, the atmosphere is changing. Now, the one thing I do think you have that no one has is your longevity is mental at this point in time. Like, no one's ever had, like, top 3, top 5 teams for this many years. Like we're saying, it's like 7, 8 years. Like, other people, a great IGL is lucky if they get 2 years, 3 years. You know, you got to win your tournaments then. So, here's the question, right? I know if you ask people, you're supposed to say, well, you know, he's got the 4 majors, or maybe even he's supposed to say, well, you know, let's let the fans decide or whatever. I'm not asking what the fans think. I'm not asking who is the GOAT. What I'm asking is this, karrigan, is if I was karrigan and I did all that, even that all might be true, but I'd at least think in my heart I'm the GOAT. I'd at least be like, hey, I was in my own brain when I saw the calls I did. I know. Does karrigan think he's the GOAT to himself?
We are doing a good job to trying to prove people wrong. I think.
Okay.
I have it like this, right? Okay, Simple is the GOAT, but Device won more than Simple.
True.
And Device has been longevity.
Longevity too. Yeah.
Yeah, but Simple has a higher peak in few of the years. It depends on how you look at merits and how you look at the results and how you look at it. Because yeah, Astralis had the best era. Like they were the best team. But I always feel like I've been competitive wherever I was. Like I almost got envy to a major sure. Playing with NA players. So, I mean, I know I'm doing something good, and my role has never been like my goal has never been to be specifically a GOAT, but being a unique IGL that actually did everything they could to have the players at the highest peak of their career and trying to develop some of the best talents in the game to become the best players in the world, and trying to play different teams and try to bring everyone to the top. And I think I've done great in that assessment. But obviously, however you want to put it, he has 4 majors. So if you only look at majors and big trophies, I'm never gonna catch up on that. But the same with Device and Simple. Who says Device is not the GOAT then if you only look at the merits and but there you're looking at stats. But ideally you're looking at trophies, which I think it's always hard because you have never been there in the team. But players have been in different teams now. I've done it different ways in different teams, and everybody's talking international team. Yeah, it's all default now. Trust me, back then, every time you got a new player who never played an international team before, had to learn English before they actually started playing. But now everybody's thinking English in the game. So yeah, I think obviously. I'm doing great stuff, and I obviously think I'm top 2 IGL of CSGO. But it depends on how you look at it, because I think my journey is way more complicated, way more up and down, and a lot of comeback stories, and a lot of losses, some chokes, some learning stuff, and then I win everything within a few months, the end of my career. And my career is also I'm also older than Glaive, but what's unique about me is I'm still trying to show everyone that even if you're 33 years old, you can still compete at the highest level and win trophies. And I'm just trying to do something historic in the game. And now I'm on to trying to win 3 Tier 1 trophies in CS 1.6, CSGO, and now CS2. So a lot of goals in front of me, and I'm not done yet.
I have a weird trivia question right towards the end here that I want to wait till the end. Also, I didn't want to waste all the other ones. I wanted to get all the proper questions in. So it's a weird one, right? Because he can only be me and know this, right? Because I have an amazing memory for things I hear along the years. And especially, here's a little tip for all you pros out there. You won't listen, so it doesn't matter. You know when we're all in those bars at the after parties and everyone's just kicking back and chilling, and normally I don't want to talk Counter-Strike that much, but if it's the right person and that's the only scenario they'll open up, you know, you talk about a few things. Even then, I'm always, like, my brain's always recorded, like, shh, store that for later. That's a really good piece of info. And I just wait for the right time. So what I heard from years ago is G.O.A.T, who used to be your IGL way back in the day, before you were an in-game leader, I noticed that I heard this story from him, and they do this to this, well, when he was still IGL, they did this to this day in Big, which is, you're going to know what I'm talking about with Sins, but no one else is, which is when they throw a flashbang, They don't just throw a flashbang and know, right, you know, it's going to be like 2.5. They say, boom, as the flashbang explodes. And they do it for their teammates. Because what they want is they want the guy that, like, you're flashing in to know, like, when I say boom, that's when you turn. Or that's when you, like, take the peek, right? And what I've noticed with your comms videos is karrigan still does this. He's the only one in FaZe that does, by the way. The rest of them just ignore this for some reason. I think it's fire, by the way. I think God really came up with this. It's genius. But, like, I notice you still do it. I notice it's still part of your game. You still do the boom.
Yeah, I think it's important, especially because I love when I'm at entry, because sometimes the enemy throws a flash and you don't know, because sometimes people saying they're flashing, but when they're saying that, they didn't release mouse
Yes.
1 yet, and in my mind the timing is off, you know. So I'm just trying to make sure that you understand that my flash, boom, now it's like it's go time, you know. And if there comes 2, I always say it on the second one, not first. Like, so I just think it's a good comms, especially in execute where it can get hectic as you execute. Somebody is getting peeked from whatever angle there is on the map, you know, and then you didn't hear that I said flash, but then you hear boom, and then like, okay, he flashed already. So I think it's good to have that. But I'm always trying. There's specific strats where I am telling the guy he needs to say boom. Hopefully he notes it down, you know, because that's the flash I need to know. That one has to be exploded before I go. The other ones can be in the back or in front of me. I know how my run path will be, but that flash I need to go on the pop timing before they got unblinded, for example.
By the way, that is one small thing I did want to ask about, is because obviously people think, like, they've done that thing where they got all IGLs wrong, by the way, on this. They think, right, Glaive plays structured. So they think every round was like from spawn, we do the like existence shit from 10 years ago. But I can tell you right now, I've seen Glaive do loads of great mid-round calls and do shit that definitely wasn't on the player book, like a closer at the end of the round he obviously didn't intend to do because the site wasn't open. Similarly, when people hear like karrigan just does a loose style, they really think it's Nico go kill. They think like that, you sit there, you go, Nico go, ropz go, oh sorry, I meant ropz go kill. Like, meanwhile, obviously, it's the same thing. You have utility usage, you have set plays, right? One thing I know that pros, I've heard even people who at tier 2, when they come to tier 1, this is one of the reasons why like skilled players sometimes don't always make it immediately. It's the util usage that's different. They tell me they go in and they think it's going to be like an FPL game. Like, yeah, I can frag with these guys. I'll beat that guy there. But they say when you play like your CT spot, the great IGLs, like you aren't just blind all the time. You're just like, fuck, what the hell? I'm gonna, like, I'm blind, I can't move anywhere. Or like the smoke, like the gap on it. It's like that, you know. The margins for the util game in modern CS, it's a big deal, right? Everyone has to have it to some degree. If you want to be in the best team, you've got to have this component.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a big part of the game. But I think also the game has been stalling a little bit in the meta. I think it's very, very strange meta right now. A lot of executes are the same. Obviously, Anubis, I don't feel that Anubis have moved a lot from the third month it was out to where it is now. Because I think the meta is like playing the basics good and playing the context, and right now the meta with Heroic playing very good has been CTs moving a lot. I think that's the biggest meta that changed over the past year, but the utility has always been on point. Like there's set flashes, good flashes, the default smokes, but also some of the one-ways that sometimes come out. So I think the biggest change is just the team play from when you go from tier 1 to tier 2, that you don't always get easy duels now. You get double peaks or you get double flashed. Like there's a third flash coming and it's landing in a specific place where the T has specific runway where it doesn't look that way. And if you look at him, you're full blind and he turns around and kill you, you know? So I think that the level between tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 1 is getting very close now. I think that we saw that at the major, but I still think when the pressure's on, you can feel the difference between a tier 1 and tier 2 player.
You can decide if this is a silly question and too nerdy or if it's a real one, right? As I said earlier, the fact that you and Nico just played your whole careers in international teams and haven't reunited, it's kind of like, all right. Obviously, it could still happen in CS2. Who knows what happens with the lineups? But the other one I was thinking about recently, so that's like an exciting one. People could, if they were in wrestling storylines, they want that comeback to happen. Like that would be a cool moment, right? But the other one I was thinking of recently is, even though he played in Team Liquid Simple back in the day when he had to, obviously in the last few years, it's like you have to basically speak Russian to be in his team for obvious reasons. Because he's just done this move where he's gone international now. That made me start thinking, what if one day Simple played with karrigan? Would you be up for that? Would you like to be the guy who tries to, I don't know, do you control him? Do you get the fuck out of his way? What do you do, right? You got to wonder about it. You've played him so many times.
I think he's getting a lot of freedom. But I think I can't go there because Blade say they don't sign people over 25.
All right, they've done you there, right? Okay.
It's only 8 years ago.
That's too good. Okay.
No,
Sure.
but obviously that would be super cool at any point. But we all know that I think there's a big chance my retirement ends in FaZe. Like depends on whatever happens. But this is where my career did the most impact. I love FaZe, and I would only, if something happens and they would go with another guy, I would happily let that happen. But never say never. Like I have sometimes thought like maybe I was done after Mouse. I thought Mouse would be my last team. But things change. Like I still believe I got a lot of things left in the tank, and if one day that FaZe don't want me and the symbol writes me, who knows what happens? But they're starting an international project now, and limited. It's a project. It's gonna take time, and we saw that with Vitality as well. It's not easy to go from one thing to another, but now at least they got some international players that played international team for a while now.
You must be a really different person now, because I remember when you were just like a fucking star player in 1.6. And first of all, if people don't know, Danish people have a really zany sense of humor. Like everyone knows those fucking Cadian pictures we all saw years ago, where it's all sort of like wacky and doing like silly pranks and stuff. And I remember when you were in that Mouse team and you went to that IEM, and no joke, this is real. This is not a joke I'm about to say. And you brought that fucking old school football rattle where you were doing that after every round. I'm not joking, even though I was just a journalist. I even went to like an admin, like, that can't be legal. Like, that's so loud and annoying. He's doing it every round. Like, that's just tilting everyone in the fucking building. Because it was one of those like cyber arena in Kiev where it's like you're trapped in that little room, that guy. I could never imagine that guy being like a leader, like having to tell, watch out, guys, like, let's be serious now. It's when the game. What's the change been from the guy in 1.6 to the guy now that I see?
I think I've always been very hyped, like some of the stuff I just did for the team and just having a fun about a play. So obviously it's different fun now. I'm always trying to make good mood in the team. But I think some of my issues when I was a young star player was I could shut down easy. And that's something I just thought like if we go into LAN, I have to bring good energy vibes and make people laugh, some stupid jokes, stuff like that. But I'm still shouting a lot on LAN now, but it's a little bit different now. I learned my lesson because I did it against Taz from Virtus Pro at that tournament. Next tournament, he had like a huge horn.
Like an air horn.
And it was very loud. He stand up and he just looking at me, eye contact, and
Taz was the master of that.
And then Admin said, "No more toys," because it's too loud.
Okay.
And then he said, he did the whole last tournament, so it was fun. It was like a good way to create some banter and make a good mood for the team. But obviously, you change as a player, as a person, as an IGL. Like everything is more serious, like with what it was 8-9 years ago. Living the dream 8-9 years ago and just chilling, playing CSGO. Now it's a full-time life job. You're sacrificing everything to win tournaments. Back then, I was just like young and having fun and enjoying earning money playing video games.
Right, people know that you're obviously good at doing the play to the camera after, if people don't know, as a pro, you do see the red light come on the camera, but even so, young players, they don't know what to do, they're awkward. You always have some silly thing you do. I've noticed, the effect isn't nothing, because now it feels like also, people were sort of laughing at you and Nico when he lost the Boston Major, because it was an all NA crowd. Dude, it feels like now every fucking arena's a home crowd game for you. Even the Brazilians cheered for you, mate, which kind of says it all at that point. All these crowds, the crowd really seems to have a warm to you. They just love you as a character, right? Do you feel that when you're on the stage?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, for me, has the most important thing is to be myself, and I am a little cringe guy and trying to bring up the mood with the team, but also thought to myself that we would never sit here if there was not people paying to watch the tournaments, traveling to another country, buying hotel rooms, buying tickets, buying food. Bro, it's gonna be 1K at some point, 1-2K you spend to come watching a CSGO tournament. And I realized you have to be more than that. You have to give back your personality. You have to open up, and I think that's what I also did with my YouTube. I'm just opening up to the team and showing that we're just not broky, karrigan, or whatever. We also personalities, and I'm never thinking what to do. Besides the Batman thing was fun because of our jerseys, but else I'm just trying to be me. And I always thought to myself, if I have to open up my who I am, people gonna hate me or love me. That's not my point to judge. As long as I'm prove to myself and by showing character and obviously all the love I'm getting, but also feel lately with the message I'm getting on social media is that many people can rely to my story, you know, like they're grinding so many years in university or whatever, and then they come on the other side and they don't even do what they're supposed to do, and then now they love it, you know, like maybe my story is also what people like about the personality, that, you know, it's not been a fun ride always. It's not like I'm just sitting there and just being a troll or a clown. I'm trying to loot up the mood and the crowd, and love it or hate it. It's not my point of view, but obviously all the support I'm getting, I'm super happy about it, and just makes me think that, you know, like there was, when I started, it was just sitting in a basement and playing a game I love, and now people are paying tickets to not only see great Counter-Strike, but also to see show and personality on the stage.
Right, obviously, it's all good. We'll do another one of these in another 6 years. Because that's actually just how my career is. We've been around that long, mate. We can just say that unlike other people, right? But at the end of this interview, do you have a final message? Do you want to say hello or thank anyone?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone who's watching this long into and looking at reflection, and then everybody who reached out to me and just following my story. And I hope that inspires everyone else to work hard and never give up. You know, like in the end, it's up to you. Like if you fight hard enough, the results will come. That's the thing that we talked about today. Reflections is at some point in your life, you're gonna reflect like 5 years ago how you were, where you are. It doesn't matter as long as you try to go forward. So just to all the ones out there, the real ones that watching the whole 2 hours, I guess it was 2.5 hours. Enjoy it and see you around.
Tusen tak. I've been pleasantly surprised during the time I've had my Patreon and my Patreon community, the Illuminati, by both the financial support they've provided and the moral support. And so this video was kindly supported and made possible by Starlust, Theo Buenzelli, Ahmed Haju, Matt Pugnaccio Racula, Toucan, Jensen Go, Animosity, Tobias Bernasconi, Bot Pounder 420, Yerka 86, Tosh, and as always, you know it, a special thanks goes out to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Would you like to ask a question in one of those AMAs where I tend to go pretty in depth? Sometimes they even spin out into their own videos. Do you want teasers to find out who the upcoming guests are for the myriad of interviews that I do across esports? Maybe you want to suggest a topic or a guest? We have a channel on my Discord where you can do that if you're at the right tier. And of course, you could potentially take part in one of those lengthy esports discussions with me about whatever is on your mind in the scene. Well, if any of those perks sound tantalizing, put your money where your mouth is and join the Illuminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.